I am a huge news junkie. Every now and then there's a legitimate news piece that comes up. I read it or watch it and think to myself, is today just a really slow news day? Did the journalist behind this news piece get lazy, rip something off of The Onion, and try to pass it off as real news? Well, this article comes to us from our good friends at the National Post. It reads, what's believed to be the first case in Canada of alleged criminal harassment via Twitter is just a judge's decision away from being over. After hearing closing arguments Tuesday from Chris Murphy, who represents 54-year-old Gregory Allen Elliott, Ontario Court Judge Brent Kazan is expected to rule on October 6. In the balance rides enormous potential fallout for free speech online. Elliott is charged with criminally harassing two female political activists, Steph Guthrie and Heather Riley, in 2012. Allegations involving a third woman were dropped, hopefully because she came to her senses and realized that this is all bullshit. The graphic artist and father of four lost his job shortly after his arrest, which was well publicized online. Oh wow, he must have been sending her threatening emails and texts, and following her around the city, and setting up fake Facebook and Twitter accounts to further stalk her. Nope. These are astonishing repercussions, given that it's not alleged he ever threatened either woman or any other, according to the testimony of Toronto police officer Detective Jeff Banglid, who was in charge, or that he ever sexually harassed them. Okay, so what did he do to deserve these charges? Indeed, Elliott's chief sin appears to be that he dared to disagree with the two young feminists and political activists. Oh, what scum! I know we banned the death penalty in Canada 53 years ago, but we need to bring it back for scum like this. What a joke. He and Guthrie, for instance, initially fell out over his refusal to endorse her plan to sick the internet upon a young man in Northern Ontario who had invented a violent video game where users could punch an image of a feminist video blogger named Anita Sarkeesian until the screen turned red. Okay, so let me get this straight. This guy in Northern Ontario made a game that you didn't like, and you want to sick the internet on him to punish him. Well, whatever happened to simply taking the high road? Guthrie tweeted at the same time she wanted the inventor's hatred on the internet to impact his real-life experience, and tweeted to prospective employers to warn them of the young man, and even sent the local newspaper in his town a link to the story about the game. Alright, so you essentially want to ruin this guy's life, all because he made a video game that you don't like. Wow, this has sociopath written all over it. Elliott disagreed with the tactic and tweeted he thought that the shaming was every bit as vicious as the face-punching game. Until then, the two were collegial online, with Elliott offering to produce a free poster for Guthrie's Women in Toronto Politics group. So Elliott's point was two wrongs don't make a right. My mother taught me that when I was a small boy. I'm not sure if her parents did or not. She essentially wants the guy to get fired over a stupid video game and to ruin his life. I'm thinking that Steph has never been on the receiving end of the internet lynch mob before. I would like to think that if the internet lynch mob ever went after Steph, her opinion on this would change very quickly. I do also want to make it abundantly clear that I am not in any which way advocating for the internet lynch mob to go after Steph. I am above such petty behavior. If there's anyone out there who is thinking of trolling Steph or wanting to sick the internet on her, to use her own phrase, please don't. It's just not worth it. Alright, so back to the article. As serious as the ramifications of a conviction could be for Elliott, so could they be dire for free speech online, Murphy suggests in his final arguments. He said the idea that all it takes to end up charged with criminal harassment is vigorous participation in online debate with those who will have a chilling effect on people's ability to communicate, and not just on Twitter. Yeah, I would absolutely agree with this. Freedom of speech in Canada is protected as a fundamental freedom by Section 2 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom. So if somehow Steph did get her way here, it would be a clear violation of the Charter. So can a judge just violate it willy-nilly? In fact, Murphy said that contrary to what Guthrie and Riley testified to at trial, they weren't afraid of his client, as suggested by both their spirited demeanor in the witness box and their deliberate online campaign to call Elliott out as a troll. Rather, Murphy said they hated Elliot and were determined to silence him, not just by blocking his tweets to them, but by demanding he cease even referring to them, even in making comments about heated political issues. Wow, this is just crazy. However, also typical of a lot of feminists. No dissenting opinion is allowed. Everyone who does not agree 100% will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Well, if these feminists have their way, that is. You know, it is women like Steph and Heather that give feminists a bad name. There are feminists out there who think that this is complete bullshit to begin with, and there are feminists out there who want to do actual good in the world. But unfortunately, women like Steph and Heather are crying because someone disagreed with them, instead of focusing on stuff like female genital mutilation and the way religion treats women. But oh no, this is a real threat here. A guy who disagrees with you too. Please, bitches, give me a fucking break. To all this, Guthrie pointed out once in cross-examination that feelings of fear, like all feelings, develop over time, and snapped when she said she was sorry she wasn't a perfect victim who behaved like a conventional victim. Steph isn't a victim here at all. Greg is. The poor guy lost his job because he dared to disagree with you. Ironically, it is statements like this that makes your brand of feminism one of the most misogynistic philosophies out there. You always have to be the victim. The criminal harassment charge is rooted in the alleged victim's perception of the offending conduct. The statute says if the conduct caused the alleged victims reasonably in all their circumstances to fear for their safety, that's good enough. Yet Guthrie and Riley didn't behave as though they were remotely frightened or intimidated. They convened a meeting of friends to discuss how Elliot should be publicly shamed. They bombarded their followers with furious tweets and retweets about him, including grotesque suggestions from someone pretending she was a 13-year-old that he was a pedophile. They could and did dish it out. Again, sociopaths hard at work here. They must always be the victim no matter what, even if they aren't the victims. They were not vulnerable, Murphy said. They were very accomplished, politically savvy women. If they can't handle being mentioned in the tail end of a political discussion on Twitter, then they're in the wrong business. Murphy nailed it here. There's always going to be someone who disagrees with you. If you can't handle the heat, get out of the fire. And he said of the meeting both women attended in August 2012 to discuss how Elliot would be called out. That was a conspiracy to commit a criminal offense. They were conspiring to go out and publicly shame Mr. Elliot. Conspiracy to commit a criminal offense doesn't really help your case here, Steph. Murphy said the case was akin to a high school spat, except it's adults on the internet, and said it was astonishing that the court should be acting as the referee in an online political debate. If anyone was being criminally harassed here in this case, Murphy's told the judge, it was my client. It was Mr. Elliot. That Riley, who was anonymous on Twitter and directed her own volley of hateful tweets at Elliot, should come to this court and the police and say that she's being criminally harassed is an abuse of the system. Prosecutor Marnie Goldenberg made only the briefest remarks and refused to provide Post-Media with a copy of her written arguments, saying that it wasn't in her practice. I wonder if the case does not go Steph and Heather's way, if they will label the judge as sexist and demand a new judge, and keep doing that until they get their way. Greg has already suffered enough throughout this whole incident. He lost his job and has even been barred from the internet for 1 year. It would seem as though the ban is still in effect, as he has not been on his Twitter account since November of 2012. I looked up Steph's profile just to see what was there. Oh, well, isn't this just typical of what a feminist would do? What about Heather's? No difference here. Thank you very much for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, and share this video. Steve Talon out.